Hello, Feuzion. My name is Alex Fuse, the host of Sports Fusion News. Here tonight, I am joined by Tom Goslowski, co-host of Levac and Goz on 104.5 ESPN Radio. So, Goz, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome, man. Thank you so much for having me on. A second time on Fuse
Yeah,
Nation.
second
part
time.
Of it. I'm very happy to be part of it again. Thank you, man.
Yeah, so I want to ask you, the last time I had you on, you were a producer here, and now you are the co-host of the show. So how's this transition been for you?
It's just been fine for me. I never really, thinking back now, it's not my first time hosting. I had an opportunity to host back in Geneva, New York, where I went to school. I had a chance to host Morning Drive in Syracuse, New York. So I'd been a host before, and when I came out to Albany, my ultimate goal was to be a host here on the station. So even though my role was producer, the guys who I'd worked with before never really kept me away from the on-air possibility. I filled in for everybody when I could. I had more of an on-air role starting in April. So the role from going to producer to host, it was the hosting part of it I never really lost. I was always with these guys doing something. So I'm happy to say it was an easy transition. Stuff has been good for me so far.
Now, social media, I know you have a segment every Thursday, Social Media Awkward, and you have a lot of fans on Twitter that here in the Capital Region tweet out to you guys, and it's a lot of fun. And I know you have a lot of cool segments on this show as well. So what's Social Media Awkward for you like?
Yeah, it's a cool segment that Levac and I thought of together. There was a segment I used to do on my show. It's called Defend Your Tweet. This is back in the first quarter in Syracuse, where Defend Your Tweet was I'd have a guest on the show, and we just go through their Twitter account and just call them out on stuff because people are comfortable talking about things that they have said on social media. So I said, we got to figure out a way to both connect with people who are engaging in the show, but also making sure anybody who's engaging with the show gets some love. Because you've listened to it before now, being a part of internship here at the station, that it's crazy. Like, we might be talking about sports. We had stuff coming in today about WWE wrestling. We had stuff coming in about, like, the Little Rascals. It was all over the place. So it's been a lot of fun doing segments like that. And the one goal I've always said for younger hosts is that to find things like that that are so unique to you. I feel like Socially Awkward Media has become unique to Levac and I, and the Arizona Fall League, stupid update as it is, has somehow become unique to the show. But that's the one thing I think this station in the past 2 years has gotten better with, and even more so the last 6 months, is how important social media can be to engage with your audience and find out what people want to talk about.
Yeah, and something about social media is now here in upstate New York, Giant fans have an opportunity to really play into how they think and ask you questions about how the Giants are going to do, especially this weekend when they play the Packers. So I want to ask you, how do you think Giants fans will be feeling when they wake up Monday morning?
Oh, they're not going to be happy. Okay. They're not. I mean, this is a draw for the Green Bay Packers that I had said 2 weeks ago. That if you could avoid any franchise going to the NFC playoffs, if you're the Giants, you would want to avoid the Packers because they still have number 12. They still have Aaron Rodgers, who arguably for some is the MVP, and he's won this season with wide receivers off the street and no running back. They have their wide receiver playing running back. That's how good Aaron Rodgers has been this season. And now you get him at home. I mean, the Giants have had a great season this year. They really have. The Dallas Cowboys have achieved a lot of things with rookies. The Giants have done it with a first-year head coach. But I would have to take the Packers in this game. Aaron Rodgers, I'm not picking against them. I would have picked against them the last 6 weeks if I could have, except the Lions game last week because of all the things I just laid out. But he hasn't lost. So why would I pick against him now? Sorry, Giants fans. I'm leaning towards the Packers in this matchup this weekend.
Okay, and now we're going to go back to social media, and I got a tweet. I tweeted out today about our show tonight, and Brady Laverio, former Shelmont graduate, student of Shelmont High School, tweeted out and asked you about the Cowboys and if you think this is their year to become the Super Bowl champ. So I'm going to ask you, what do you think about the Cowboys?
I would have loved to answer that question last year because last year my Super Bowl pick was the Dallas Cowboys when Tony Romo was healthy, when Des Bryant was healthy. So I wish it was a year previous because I would have looked a lot smarter. But looking at this Cowboy team going forward, it comes down for me to that Giants-Packers game. Because if the New York Giants do win that game and they get the Cowboys in the divisional round, I'm taking the Giants. I've watched them beat them twice already this season. Everyone says, well, it's so hard to beat a team 3 times in a year. Well, the players haven't changed. The results haven't changed. So I would take the Giants to get all the way to the Super Bowl if they get by the Packers. But if the Cowboys can get somebody else in that divisional round with that offensive line, I'm picking the Cowboys to go all the way to the Super Bowl and take on the Patriots. I know that's chalk, 1-1, but if they can avoid the Giants, I like his Cowboys to make a run all the way to Houston.
So you're saying that your Super Bowl prediction are the Dallas Cowboys versus the New England Patriots?
Yeah, it's so lame, Alex. Make me unlame. I can't stand it that I have to go chalk versus chalk, 1-1, but we've seen it the past 3 years in the NFL. I wish I could find a team like Atlanta, but Atlanta, as great as their offense has been, they've choked in the playoffs. I wish I could go with the Kansas City Chiefs. If the Chiefs play the Patriots, it's going to be a fantastic AFC title game. Secondary is really good for Kansas City. Andy Reid may have a bye week getting ready to take on the divisional opponent, which he's going to have. I like the Chiefs to give the Patriots a good game, but I can't take the Chiefs over New England, and I can't take anybody over Dallas. So as lame as it is, 1-1, yeah, in Houston, I would have to see, and I'd have to guess it would be Cowboys-Patriots.
Okay. Well, we'll switch gears now and talk some baseball, get some spring weather in here. And, the Yankees here in upstate New York, big, popular team. But the Mets have also been popular the past few years as they have their resurgence. And I want to ask you, the Yankees, rookies a lot this year, and from last year, Gary Sanchez, of course. So where do you see this Yankee team coming up? They got Chapman over the offseason. They traded away McCann. So where do you see this Yankee team this season?
I can see the Yankees fighting for a wild card spot right into the last few moments of the league. The Red Sox should run away with, and by running away with, I mean 5 to 6 games in September, having a lead like that in the division. So the Yankees should be contending with someone either from the AL West or the AL Central for a wild card spot. I can see them in contention for the wild card this year.
Okay.
That's where I'd put them. My biggest fear for the Yankees, and especially their fans, is how high the expectations are going to be for the players that were so good. Gary Sanchez is not going to do what he did last year, over 162 games. It's never been done before. So everybody, relax. He is not Babe Ruth. Even Babe Ruth couldn't do what Gary Sanchez did last year. Aroldis Chapman won the Cubs a World Series, even though he got hit around a bit. But he's not going to go throw 110. It's the same Aroldis Chapman who pitched for the Yankees, if not a little bit older, which he really is when you think about it. Aroldis Chapman, Gary Sanchez, temper your expectations. But the Yankees overall for a team, if they can figure out that starting rotation, should be in the mix for a wild card hunt.
Okay, and across time we got the Mets, and the Mets really only wanted to sign Cespedes this year during the offseason, so they got that done. So the Mets are basically done the rest of the offseason. So where do you see the Mets playing into next season as hopefully their starter pitchers can stay healthy?
Last year I had as my World Series pick, I had the Mets winning the World Series over the Toronto Blue Jays. And going into the same season, I would look at the Mets as a possible World Series team again and the winner of the NL East. Because it's hard for me, again, to look at the New York Mets and think, and I've done this before on the show, to say, all right, well, one of these guys, the pitchers, Syndergaard, DeGrom, Harvey, some Wheeler, well, one of them is going to get hurt. So I'm going to predict an injury? Because that's not fair to them.
Yeah.
I get they've been injuries across their careers, but the point is to look at the roster and say, all right, if this is the roster that is going to take on the NL East in Major League Baseball this season, then it's just as good as any roster we see across Major League Baseball. So I'd have to take the Mets with that pitching staff, with the re-signing of Cespedes, with some younger bats in that lineup, to not only be the division champion, but be right there at the end to get to the World Series. Now, I can already hear Mets fans saying, "Goz, you're jinxing us. Someone's going to get hurt." But I'm not predicting injuries. It's just not fair. The Mets are that good when everyone's healthy.
Okay, and guys, before we wrap up this interview, you also not only host Levac and Goz, but you also have your own wrestling podcast, and I am also a big wrestling fan.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
So I want to talk to you so you can, put over that wrestling podcast and make sure all the listeners know you actually do have a wrestling podcast with some few other people as well. So what's this wrestling podcast been like to you to start it up and everything?
I love the term you're using, it, getting over the wrestling podcast. As the heel turns, you can check it out. It gets tweeted out from @1045 The Team. At Tom Goz, TOMGOZZ, also has it in our Facebook on the team as well. It's As the Heel Turns. It is myself. It's my buddy Zach Bai, who hosts on Big Board Sports, does UAlbany football and basketball, crazy wrestling fan. It's my buddy Vinny, who works here for Q103. You may hear him on WGNA as well, our sister stations at 1045 The Team. And also the Tig Man, who you can hear on afternoons on Q103 as well. We're so different because Zach's a little bit older than me, Vinny's a little younger than me, and Tig's much older than us. So we have all these different eras of wrestling. So, for instance, I grew up in the Monday Night Wars. And it's the reason I love wrestling is because I grew up as when I was 7, 8, 9 years old with Nitro and Raw, and I could not miss it. Zach was like 12 or 13, but right around that age, and he was embracing it as a different style of event. Vinny kind of missed it, but was in love with the early 2000s. And Tig is a guy who goes back to the Hogan and Flair days. So we have all these different perspectives on how wrestling, the business, the athletes, the whole product has changed over time. And it's really fun to get all those different perspectives. And our podcast is much different because we don't break down every week what happens on Raw and SmackDown. We don't break down the pay-per-views. Every week is a top 5 list. We've done the top 5 never to be champions, one podcast. We did the top 5 wrestling matches ever on our last podcast. The new one coming up this week is the top 5 entrances. We're talking music, we're talking the walkout, the whole shebang, top 5 entrances. So we do a top 5 list every single week and hopefully creates that discussion, which we've been able to do the first couple weeks doing it.
Well, I know you just said that you are a big fan of the Monday Night Wars, and also Bill Goldberg is back in WWE. So what has Goldberg meant to you, when you watch wrestling? And now seeing him back on Monday Night Raw, and he's going to be wrestling at Royal Rumble, and then the pay-per-view in February, and also at the big show event, WrestleMania this year. So what's Bill Goldberg? He's still... He's
in an amazing shape, and I'm in my mid-20s, so a lot of my friends who I've grown up with, that is their favorite WWE guy of all time. The 2 most popular wrestlers of my friends are The Rock and Goldberg. And Austin. I mean, those three. Those 3 dominated the era. Taker as well. Taker was a little different just because Taker had his own style, and like The Rock and Austin and Goldberg were such I guess... bad, I don't want to say bad guys, but like badasses, you know what I mean? Like, you know, guys who were just so tough and rugged that they just did it their own way. As a kid, so I'm 8 and watching Goldberg, and I'm consuming the product differently now that I'm in my mid-20s, but watching someone like Goldberg who would just squash everybody in like 90 seconds, not talk to anybody, be like a real animal in the ring was the coolest thing ever. And a lot of people don't realize this, and I'm sure older wrestling fans would disagree, but it's an interesting theory I've always had. One of the reasons to this day that I believe WWE beat WCW in the ratings, and the real reason the Monday Night Wars took a turn, is Starrcade. When Goldberg is like 175-0. Like, he was 175-0. Whether that record was true or not, he's 175-0. He's at Starrcade. He's taking on Kevin Nash. Main event. Scott Hall comes out and tasers Goldberg. This is available on the WWE Network. So he tasers Goldberg. Nash picks him up. Power bomb. It's over. Crowd goes nuts because the crowd didn't want to see Goldberg win anymore. But the little kids were all upset that they cheated to beat their hero Goldberg. So as me, I was so furious and my friends were so mad that we didn't want to watch WCW anymore because they cheated to beat our guy Goldberg, who's the hero. A lot of people point to the next night, which is known as now the finger poke of doom, where Kevin Nash has the title. Hogan comes back. Hogan pokes Nash. He falls over. Title changes hands the next night because he poked him. They point to that as the moment it turned. But for me, Goldberg is the real reason that may have lost the Monday Night War. So seeing him back in that type of shape, it's awesome for nostalgic wrestling fans like myself.
And he actually beat Brock Lesnar in less than a minute, I believe, at the last pay-per-view at Survivor Series. So, I mean, it's crazy that Goldberg's back and still squashing Brock Lesnar.
And it's one of the cool finishes, too, because wrestling fans didn't know how the match was going to go. I remember going to the match and thinking, these guys are kind of getting old. Lesnar's been around a little bit here and there. I don't know. I don't want to watch them wrestle for 20 minutes. I hope they don't. And watching that finish, I'm like, oh, he had a spear. Oh, this is over. I got excited, which was really cool, and a great job by the WWE getting me into it. I was like, I can't wait now for the Rumble to see what happens.
Yeah. Okay, guys, I want to say thank you for coming on the Sports Fusion News episode today, and I hope you are on very soon again. And where can fans listen to you and follow you on Twitter?
You can check us out. Thank you so much for having me on again. Again, my Twitter handle is @TomGoz, TOMGOZZ. And you can follow at 1045 The Team, our station. And you can always listen to Levac and Goz 2 to 7 on ESPN Radio 1045 The Team. Just hit 1045theteam.com. Hit listen live 2 to 7. You'll be listening to us Monday through Fridays.
Okay, great. Thank you. Be sure, Fuse Nation, to tune in to Sports Fusion News next week, as I will have Brian Hoke, MLB.com Yankee beat writer, and also Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA founder. Thanks for watching. I will see you next week.